Imagine this. You walk into a room, no clock on the wall, no windows, no way to tell time. A man in a white coat gives you a glass of water and you drink it. 20 minutes later, your mind begins to melt. You're strapped in a chair, begging for this to stop, but it doesn't because you're not sick, you're not crazy, you're a test subject.
These aren't supervillains or mad scientists. This is the US government. They called it MK Ultra, and it was very real.
Tonight, we're going to open that file, and trust me, it's darker than you think.
Welcome back to Beyond the Campfire. I am one of your hosts, Stephen the Indian, alongside Will the Cowboy, and we are a cowboy and Indian that talk about ghosts, conspiracy theories, and the like. And yes, Morse, we tried something different today. We got a cold open,
That was
kind of, wet your feet a little bit. And as you heard at the beginning, we're going to be talking about the MK Ultra conspiracy.
yes, and as we stated before, this is truly terrifying, people. Yeah.
So,
So
before we dive in, remember that if this is your first time listening, you can connect with us on X, Instagram, and TikTok. You can follow us at Beyond Campfire or at Beyond Campfire Podcast on those platforms. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
yeah. All right, so we're gonna get into this. Hopefully, you guys like that idea. Don't worry that if you guys do like the idea of a cold opening like that, we are gonna tweak it a little bit. It as we grow, it I promise it won't just be two Steven and me and sitting here on the screen saying that stuff. We got ideas. So, anyways, MK Ultra. So, Steven, I want you to think for a second. Imagine if you could control someone with LSD.
If I could control someone with LSD,
Yeah.
okay, I'm just gonna have to pretend I'm not a Christian for a second, because the Puritan in me is just like, oh my goodness, what an awful thing to do to somebody. But if I weren't a Christian, I guess okay, I would control someone with LSD, and honestly, man, I would have them just do a lot of the tedious paperwork for me.
Ah,
Like the fun part of being a lawyer is speaking in court and stuff like that. I hate doing the paperwork. So if I was just forcing somebody to do something for me,
well, luckily, Steven,
courtroom.
there is a actual term for actual people like that. They're called assistants.
I know,
But
right?
in this case, you don't have to pay them. You just
Sure.
dope them up with some LSD and
I don't have paralegals yet, but if I
Hmm.
do, or when I do, rather, better hook them up with some LSD. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
That's a
Who
joke.
are we? The United States government?
Oh
Anyways,
man, don't
yeah,
send
so
this
as
to
I
my
said, the United
bosses.
States government, because this is exactly what the CIA tried in the 50s,
Sure.
60s, and early 70s.
Hmm.
They tried to basically dope people up with drugs and make them do things that they wanted them to do. And there are some famous people who were involved in this, or at least believed to be involved in this. We're going to get to them in a second. But first, I kind of want to break it down for you. We're going to kind of take you through the history of MK Ultra, how this got started, because it wasn't just like, you know what, guys, I'm a CIA man, CIA man. I've got this brilliant idea. What if we control people with LSD? No, it actually goes back. The Nazis are involved, or at least there's a belief that the Nazis were involved in all this. But in order to understand this, we have to go back to two other projects: Project Artichoke and Project Bluebird. These two projects are the fathers of MK Ultra. They're what led to MK Ultra. So
Choke and Bluebird. What
Artichoke and Bluebird.
interesting names. Okay.
So Bluebird, the idea behind Bluebird was let's take people we're going to interrogate, dope them up with LSD or any other kind of drugs to make them confess and to control them into a confession. Pretty simple. Artichoke was the project to figure out how we can make these drugs do these things. So kind of two projects working side by side.
Okay. So not the same, but definitely related in some sense.
Right. So, sorry. So yeah, what actually is really cool is on my notes, I actually have the link. You see all this? You guys probably can't really see this. Anyways, I have the actual documentation of Artichoke and Bluebird
Look at that. Yeah.
on the CIA's website. Now, there's some redacted information, but
So
I'm going to highlight some things.
public?
Yeah, it's public.
Man, look at that.
No, I hacked the CIA, guys. I have this this
Well,
white dude. I have this little white nerd dude from MIT. He cracked the code.
There you go. Well,
I gave him LSD.
What does it say?
So, it's broken up into different parts, but this all came out, and so this is the introduction. This is I'm not going to read the whole document. It's not too long, but I don't want to sit and read it all because that's going to get boring for you guys. I'm going to hit the high notes. So I'm just going to read from the first introduction paragraph. It says, in conducting an overall review of the agency's records, controls, schedules, inventories of documents and storage at the agency's archives, which is redacted, were provided to the various agency offices for review. On August 15th, 1977, the inventory of the agency's Office of Security archival material was reviewed, and the existence of 18 cartons of documents held in archives under the caption Project Artichoke was revealed. It was further ascertained that unlike those materials stored with the agency's retired record center, also located blank, the Office of Security holdings within archives are not retrievable through the Office of Security primary. Thus, these records were not found during the 1975-1976 congressional and Rockefeller investigations. So these were locked away in a different type of area during the Rockefeller. We're not going to go into Rockefeller's investigation, but just know that there was something going on at the time. These CIA documents were surfacing. We couldn't get a hold of them at the time. Okay. Now, I'm going to also...
So the Rockefellers
they were under investigation for something.
They were investigating.
Yep.
Okay. Well, wow.
That has nothing to do with MK Ultra, by the way. That's just at this time, that's how they got the documents.
An interesting tidbit nonetheless, though.
So basically, the cartons were immediately brought to headquarters for review and a determination as to what, if any, records existed pertaining to Project Artichoke / Bluebird, which had not previously been furnished to either the Rockefeller Commission or congressional committees during their inquiries into the agency's research and experimentation with drugs. So, in case you're wondering, I was wrong. Rockefeller was involved in this, but Rockefeller and Congress were basically investigating the CIA into their using drugs. And we'll get into that a little bit more about what because the first part of this episode, we're not really talking about the conspiracy about MK Ultra because all of this is public information. You can look all of this up and see the truth about MK Ultra.
But do you have a cowboy and an Indian telling it to you?
That, but also there's also a conspiracy side of things. So that's where we're kind of going through this document right now to talk about the founding, the fathers of the father and mother of Project MK Ultra. And then we'll get into MK Ultra, a little bit more about it, what it was, how it worked, and who were some confirmed people, as well who were some unconfirmed people, some rumors, some conspiracies. And we'll also kind of go into modern MK Ultra, because that's a conspiracy in itself. But I'm going to skip all this introductory stuff because it's boring. And we're going to go down past next page 6. So this is what it says. So there was about 6 pages in this document that are exempt. So the next page after that starts off by saying to 1946 with various drugs believed to aid in interrogation. The information relates to several experiments on approximately 88 witting American citizens using such drugs as benzodrine, caffeine, scopolamine, scopolamine, alcohol, and this is a big word, tetrahydrocannabidiol acetate. That really big word, that's the hallucinogenic properties of THC.
They were just
That's
putting anything in there, pumping
that first part, that big word, that big word is the TH part of THC, which is, cannabis.
right.
Weed. A June 1943 OS memorandum refers to various experiments with U.S. military volunteers using. So again, that was willing Americans. Now we're looking at the military side of things. Military volunteers were using mescaline, cannabis, indicia, and then that really big tetrahydrocannabidiol acetate. The document also mentions an unwitting test in 1943 on a notorious New York gangster by one of the OSS researchers. So, from this documentation, we have actual proof that the United States government doped up 88 willing United States civilians, as well as some military volunteers, as well as a New York mobster with drugs to try to learn interrogation techniques.
Which, I mean, is on one side you want to keep the public safe, but on another end, it's like, what the heck, man? You just take Americans, like, I mean, granted, Americans that have done some crimes, but still, you just pumping them full of drugs to get them to confess. Like, I mean, I feel like this breaks several rights and codes of conduct.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to get into that because, like I said, this most of this is after 1973 is a conspiracy. So Project Bluebird, and like I said, this is the father. So this kind of was like testing ground, and then it led into MK Ultra, which was a lot more used than these were. So another category of the newly, so this is like the third area. It's called hypnosis. So basically, part of the material found inside these files was a collection of films, files, and tapes concerning hypnosis. The material indicates a strong interest, but little, if any, operational use of this medium. A great deal of reference material was studied and analyzed. Various authorities were consulted, and several agency employees were trained in the art of hypnotism. A program of hypnosis testing and experimentation was conducted between 1951 and 1954 using volunteer agency employees as subjects. So here they are, they're using hypnosis. They're trying to learn how to use hypnosis. And that's where it kind of comes from. It's like they learn to like combine the two, if that makes sense. Kind of like combine it. There's a lot more, but what I want to skip past is there's a lot of redacted information towards the end of this file. So you have interrogation literature. That's completely blotted out. I don't even know what that could. There's nothing to hint to what that could talk about. But I'm guessing that might be cluing at what was done during these interrogations, and we don't know. It's blacked out. However, what I want to come to is this is the miscellaneous section. And it says a number of items were contained in a collection of newly found material which did not readily fit into the above categories. Among the more significant of these items are the following. So these are just kind of like miscellaneous things that were found inside the files, and they don't really think that they fit into the hypnosis category or anything like that. And again, I don't know what the other categories were because 6 pages of this thing are redacted. You can't access it. Hiding stuff. Personal papers and letters of some of the agency employees connected with the artichoke. There was 35 millimeter film containing snapshots and microfilms of documents. Documents or reports on the chemical, LSD, and psychological warfare. These snapshots also appear to be typical tourist-type photos and are not apparent significance in terms of artichoke techniques. There was inventories of drug supplies on hand. There was a number of drugs and one injection device found in the boxes. On August 22nd, 1977, a representative of the agency's Office of Medical Service examined this material. A description of the material together with the physician's comments appears below. Basically, it was a self-injecting device. There was some radiaxin 100 milligram tablets. There was some thorazine hydrochloron, 25 milligrams of that. Thorazine is commonly used as a tranquilizer, by the way. That's what's commented here. Methadone, 1 packet of 8 pills. Methadone is a well-known stimulant drug. Uh,
All
Marazine, which
kinds
is
of interesting and fun goodies.
anti-nausea medications. There was some a mild analgesic containing a small amount. There's like a whole bunch of drugs they were using. There's a sealed display card from the Columbia University of Parkinson's research showing the drugs listed below. All the drugs seem to have been used for the treatment of Parkinson, but might not have been. You know, we've got hyoscine, artane, tolserol, Benadryl, dexedrine. So so they were using all kinds of these drugs in Bluebird and in Artichoke. And so they were trying to figure out how can we take these drugs and interrogate people. And then they shifted it and were like, well, what if we could actually control people?
As one wants to do when you're the US government.
Right. So with all this stuff figured out, the project leaders of MK Ultra, which was CIA Director Alan Dulles and chemist Sidney Gottlieb, I think, they sought to develop drugs and methods for mind control to create a truth serum for interrogations and to erase memories and reprogram individuals. Spooky stuff.
Reprogram individuals. That is terrifying. My goodness.
Yeah, so if you see a black van pick you up, be careful.
Sheesh.
So yeah, we're going to go into it because Stephen was right. It was an illegal experimentation. And we're going to kind of go into that right quick. And then we'll go into who the possible people are. And then kind of a little bit go into some of my thoughts on MK Ultra and the conspiracies. So as Stephen did say, this was illegal. It was highly illegal. And what actually happened was the declassification for this. Well, basically, it started in 1953 and it ended in 1973. So for 20 years, they were doing this. And only stopped in 1923 because of, let's see if I can find it on here. It was revealed to the public in 1975 by the Church Committee. It was named after Senator Frank Church. So I don't think, like, when I heard Church Committee was looking into MK Ultra, I'm like, okay, what are we Christians doing here looking into MK Ultra? You know, it was named after the Senator Frank Church. It was a Senate committee that were looking into this illegal activity of the CIA. And they were the ones who actually were trying to get all this stuff out. But here's the problem. Investigation efforts were hampered when CIA Director Richard Helms ordered that all MK Ultra files be destroyed in 1973. So
they were destroyed?
They were destroyed. But we still were able to get it because remember how earlier we were hearing about Rockefeller?
Yeah.
So the Rockefeller Committee and the Church Committee were both investigating the CIA on this.
Shit.
And so because these documents were lost, they had to rely on sworn testimony of direct participants in MK Ultra and on the small number of documents that did survive. So, yeah.
Okay. All right.
In 1977, there was a Freedom of Information Act, which requested uncovered a cache of 20,000 documents relating to MK Ultra, which led to more Senate hearings. Some surviving information about MK Ultra was declassified in 2001.
So everything after 1973 is, you said, conspiracy?
Yes, because the CIA realized. So here's we'll get into the. I'm trying to think about how to go about this. I hope I'm making sense with all this. Am I making sense with all this so far?
Yeah. I think I'm tracking. CIA is doing, or government is doing experiments. They figure, hey, maybe we can mind control people or something.
Yeah.
Program them. Obviously, they don't want the public to find out, but people within the government are finding that stuff out. And as you are getting into Freedom of Information Act things, some stuff is coming out, but obviously a lot is still hidden.
Yes, a lot is still hidden because, like I said, we lost the documents because the CIA realized that people were coming after them. And this is where, like, it really makes you scared because you're like, holy cow, the government was doing this. So the reason why it stopped in 1973 was because the CIA realized people were coming after them, that the government, like the actual United States Congress, was cracking down on them about this. That's why he had all the documents shredded so that it couldn't come back on them. And that's why everything shut down in 1973. But, I say but, that's where the conspiracy theory comes in, because did it actually stop in 1973, or has it still been continuing to this day? And that's what we're going to get into in just a little bit. But we're going to talk about...
Because what I was going to say is, usually when someone gets caught doing something, they usually don't stop. They just find a way to become even more secretive about what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. And so, like I said, so the government... but when we go back and we look at that 20 years of MK Ultra, this stuff is wild what they did. So apparently the CIA document suggests that they were looking into chemical, biological, and radiological methods to mind control people. They apparently spent $10 million or more, which is about $87.5 million in today's money, on figuring this stuff out. So during the hearings by the Senate Health Committee, when we were doing the investigation, there's a subcommittee of the Senate Health that basically had a testimony from the deputy of the director of the CIA, who stated there was 30 institutions and universities who were involved in all this. And they were involved in the experimentation program of testing drugs on unknowing citizens at all social levels, high and low, Native Americans and foreign. That at all social levels and high and low, that's from their actual words. So a lot of these tests involve the issuing of LSD to unaware subjects in social situations. So this is where it gets crazy, right? So earlier we heard about caffeine and all this, not a lot of crazy stuff. MK Ultra was using LSD.
That whole time. Golly, man.
Yes. So the army was actually subject to testing.
Of course.
It occurred in 3 phases. The first phase was over 1,000 American soldiers who willingly volunteered for testing of chemical warfare experiments. So they didn't even say, like, we're going to mind control you. Well, because they said, oh, this is chemical warfare. We're going to test chemical warfare. Oh, yeah, military exercise, totally. No problem, man. I'll be a part of it. No. Phase 2 had 96 volunteers. They were dosed with LSD, and they were then evaluated for the possibility of intelligence uses of the drug. The third phase included Projects Third Chance and Derby Hat. They conducted experiments on 16 unwitting non-volunteer subjects that, after receiving LSD, were interrogated as part of Operation Field Tests.
I have a lot of friends in the military, and I know a lot of them have talked about experiments and coercion, and they say, they tell you it's volunteer, but if you don't do it, then it's kind of not volunteer, but they say it's volunteer. And so I don't know, man, when you're in the military, they control your paycheck, they control your housing, they basically control everything. So you can volunteer, but are you actually volunteering when they control basically all the means of your happiness?
Yeah.
I don't know. So,
well, you ready to hear how LSD got started in the United States?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because we're talking about MK Ultra and everything the government did during this project. So in 1938, LSD was isolated by this guy by the name of Albert Hofmann at the Sandoz Laboratories in Basel, Switzerland. So this guy kind of discovered LSD. The early directors, the people in charge of MK Ultra in the early days, became aware of LSD. And they said, we could use that for mind control. So in the early 1950s, the director of it at the time, who was, you remember that lady I told you about? I think it's a lady. Her name's Sydney. Sydney, not Sydney yes. Sweeney, Sydney. She arranged for the CIA to buy this guy's whole entire supply of LSD.
Oh.
Which was about $240,000, but in today's money, it was about $4.2 million.
Sheesh. There
They
you go. Dollars buying LSD, buying some guy's LSD supply.
yeah, so this gave Sydney her chance to kind of fulfill the experiment of LSD
Yeah.
and started spreading it to prisons, hospitals, institutions, clinics, and foundations, basically to see how citizens would react to the drug without knowing exactly what was happening to them.
This is a random thought, but you keep saying Sydney, and I know you're not talking about this Sydney, but I'm just imagining Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney making a deal with the U.S. government to get LSD sold, and so like every time you say Sydney, I'm just imagining a Sydney Sweeney doing these things. So anyway,
Listen. So like her last name is Gottlieb or something like that. I just
sure, okay.
it's easier.
Anyway, maybe
So
maybe Haley can make a reel out of that later or something. So
yeah. So the main efforts of the CIA were focused on LSD 25. That's what dominated most of the programs. That's a strain of LSD. At first, the CIA wanted to know if they could make Soviet spies defect. So remember how I told you the whole idea of hypnosis? Well, because guess what was going
right.
on during the time of MK Ultra? This is why the CIA was doing shady stuff.
I
Because
mean
what were we doing?
the Richard Nixon thing was going on, right?
Not the Richard Nixon thing. What else were we doing at this time? What big event was going on?
Vietnam War,
Cold War.
Cold War. There you go. Okay.
Yeah. So part of the idea behind MK Ultra was not like, oh, we want to turn our citizens against turn our citizens, which maybe that's what they were doing. Originally, it was like, okay, if we took a Soviet spy and we injected him with LSD, could we make him deter and become our spy? MK Ultra.
MK Ultra, baby.
And so part of that was also figuring out, okay, if we could do it, could the Soviets do it? So yeah,
Yes, because the evil empire across the sea, them doing something totally makes it okay for us to do it too.
I know, right?
Go ahead.
So yeah, so a lot of these projects were going on. In 1953 or April of 1953, they administered some LSD to mental patients, prisoners, drug addicts, and prostitutes. Basically, in their words, anyone who could not fight back. In one case, they gave LSD to mental patients. They administered LSD to a mental patient in Kentucky for 174 days. So there's a mental patient, and they just kept doping him up with LSD for 174 days to see what happens.
Stuff like that breaks my heart, man. It's just like these are people that already don't have a chance, and you're just like, oh, they're already not in the right place of mind, so we can do whatever we want to them. And it's just like, no, you can't. But that breaks my heart.
They also gave LSD to CIA employees, military personnel, doctors, members of the general public, and other government agencies to see how they reacted.
Members of the general public is insane. My goodness.
Reading further in my notes, because I like I told you earlier, the idea was basically to wipe people's memories, and so this is a lot of the stuff in my notes where it's in quotations was most likely said by them. The idea, again, like I said, was to bring out deep confessions of people, or wipe their minds, or program them to be robot agents. As I told you, they experimented on military personnel.
Yeah.
Military personnel who received it figured out what was going on. They were told, if you tell anyone, we'll court martial you.
See, and that's where I was like, this volunteer thing. They control your whole life, and they can just punish you if you speak or anything like that. So it's just insane, absolutely insane.
Yeah. So what's crazy about this is like Steven said earlier, we had the whole trial. So what brought the trial to mind was because all of this was illegal. It was going against the Nuremberg Code that, we couldn't, give people drugs without their knowledge or informed consent. So we were breaking laws, man. And this is why all of this got shut down in 1973. This is why everybody came after them. So yeah, we kept doing this. We kept using LSD. There's like I said, there's so much information on this. Yeah. So what gets even crazier is I'm going to talk about this guy named Frank Olson.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been several known deaths that have been associated with Project MK Ultra because you're doping people up with LSD. So in 1951, Olson, he was a United States Army biologist, biochemist, and biological warfare researcher. In 51, sources said that the Point Saint Esprit mass poisoning incident, which was, uh, sorry, trying to read this. There were sources that said in 1951 there was actually a thing called the Point Saint Esprit mass poisoning incident to ergo poisoning through a local bakery, which appeared to be plausible because um, ergot naturally contains lysogenic acid, the chemical precursor to LSD. So the thought was that the CIA pumped this thing place full of LSD to get people, doped up. Um, Frank quit his job, his position as acting chief of the Special Operations Division at Detrick, Maryland. Olson's concerns, the reason why, was he felt like there's a development of assassination materials used by the CIA, a bunch of different stuff. He thought they were collaborating with former Nazi scientists. He was learning a lot about the CIA. And in November 1953, he was giving LSD without his knowledge or consent as part of the CIA experiment. Sorry, I'm gonna have to backtrack because I was reading my notes and it was getting all jumbled. So he basically got poisoned at a bakery, and he quit his position because he started discovering all these things about the CIA.
Sure, yeah.
So the reason why he was concerned about the CIA was because, like I said, he was a bio warfare researcher. So he was afraid, upon his research, that the CIA was making assassination materials. He was afraid that the CIA was going to use use of biological warfare materials in covert operations. He kind of were like, whoa, 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 we're testing these biological weapons on civilian areas. And then also, about Operation Paperclip. You know what that was, right?
No, what's
That's
up?
basically, want to know who put us on the moon? Nazis.
Oh,
Operation Paperclip. Yeah,
yeah.
we brought all these Nazis over. So he learned about that. He kind of also got access to the LSD mind control stuff. And he was really like, what are we doing? And guess what happened?
What happened?
Without his knowledge or his consent, he was subjected to MK Ultra.
Oh no! Oh my goodness!
And he died after falling from a 13th story window a week later. Olson's death was described as a suicide that occurred during a severe psychotic episode. So the question is, was Olson's death an accident, or was it a product of MK Ultra? Yeah, so Frank Olson, he jumped out a 13-story window. And this was like I said, this was after he got dosed with LSD.
They just ruined that man's life, and basically for no reason.
Well, the question is,
So.
and he kind of ties into a lot of the theories that we have about MK Ultra and stuff, because like I said, so he was getting this MK Ultra treatment, and was like, before he got the treatment though, he was fixing to spill the beans on some of this CIA stuff, and they dosed him with LSD, and he falls out a window. Were they controlling him?
That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird circumstances.
So that like I had said, they it was described as suicide due to a severe psychotic episode. However, the CIA through their own investigation had found out that the head of the MK Ultra, the chemist Sydney, she conducted an LSD experiment with Olson's prior knowledge, although neither Olson nor the other men taking part in the experiment were informed as to the exact nature of the drug until 20 minutes after its ingestion. But here's the good news. So because Olson was part of MK Ultra, possibly was mind controlled, threw himself out a window. In 1975, when they're doing all these investigations, Olson's family did receive a $750,000 settlement from the U.S. government, and apologies from President Gerald Ford and CIA Director William Colby at the time.
Okay, so kind of something, but also like, what the heck, man?
So, kind of going over Olson a little bit more. In 1977, the Senate Select Committee for Intelligence and Human Resources wrote this: given the CIA's purposeful destruction of most records, its failure to follow informed consent protocols with thousands of participants, the uncontrolled nature of the experiments, and the lack of follow-up data, the full impact of MK Ultra experiments, including deaths, may never be known.
See that, and that's the part that worries me because Frank Olson is somebody we do know, but I mean, how many others did they do this to and covered it up? You know.
Well, and that's where we're fixing. So to kind of close this episode out, because we are kind of like there's the problem with MK Ultra is, and this is just with every conspiracy theory. I'll just go ahead and state it. When you open up this can of worms, you might think, okay, I could do a 5-minute quick research on this and be done. But like MK Ultra, there's so much more to it, you know. And so I'm going to go into some of the documented and confirmed experimentees, and then some of the confirmed subjects that partook in the LSD part. And then there are some alleged ones that actually explain a lot of people's actions. So
Okay.
some known confirmed ones.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So we have. I'm trying to think if there is. I'm looking at the list to see if there's anybody we might know. So, these are. Wait. Okay. Hold up. I need to ask you a question. Okay. Experimenter. There's the experimented, and then the one doing the experiments, right?
Makes sense to me. Yeah.
I'm asking, like, is that what the word means?
I mean, there's the researcher, and then
Right.
the test subject.
Right. Wait, I'm just making sure. I'm just making sure I've got the right information here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, experimenter and experimented. I mean, well, people understand what you mean by those terms. I mean, technically speaking, you would say researcher and test subject.
Yeah. So these are people that conducted these experiments. Some notable ones who've got Martin Orne. He was a professor of psychiatry and psychology at the University of Pennsylvania. Psychiatry. Yep. Sorry. Let's see. I'm trying to see who else is on this famous list. There's Donald Cameron. He's like really well known in this thing. He was actually president of the American Psychiatric Association from 52 to 53, the Canadian Psychiatric Association from 58 to 59, a whole bunch of psychiatric stuff this guy had. So,
are you saying that a lot of research institutes were basically in bed with the U.S. government to conduct these experiments?
Yep.
Man, this thing goes even deeper than I thought it did. Golly.
I know. So some other people who allegedly were people doing the experimentation, guess who?
I don't know. The president.
We might actually cover him at some point in the podcast. Jim Jones.
Oh, really?
He might have been he was an alleged person conducting experiments.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure he was doing drugs whenever he made Jonestown.
Oh yeah.
But okay, so he might be wrapped up in this as well. Interesting.
Yeah. Now so those are some of the people that have done the experiments, and of course we covered the alleged one of Jim Jones. But now here's some of the subjects we actually have. Like, and these are some of the confirmed ones. Have you ever heard the guy named by the name of Ken Kesey?
No, I haven't. Who is that?
Maybe you've heard the book One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
I have heard of that.
The author, Ken Kesey, is a confirmed MK Ultra.
Okay, subject. So he's the author of that book, and he was involved in it.
Yep. So it says that he was said to have volunteered for it, which the experiment he volunteered for, of course, was MK Ultra, where LSD and other psychedelic drugs. He had done this at the Veterans Administration Hospital in Menlo Park while he was a student at Stanford University. So he claims that his experiences while under the influence inspired him to promote the drug outside the context of the MK experiments, which influenced the early development of the hippie culture.
Well, I mean, yeah, hippies were using drugs, so I guess a lot of that stuff does go hand in hand.
Yeah. So he was part of MK Ultra, and because of this, he actually promoted the drug outside of it, and actually led to the hippie movement, or part of it.
Wild stuff, man.
Let's see. Have you ever heard of the band The Grateful Dead?
I have heard of them, yes.
Well, Robert Hunter, who is an American lyricist for them, and singer, songwriter, translator, and poet for the band Grateful Dead, he partook in MK Ultra.
So there's a lot of famous people that were all part of this.
Yeah, he was an early volunteer into the MK Ultra test subject, and he was also alongside King Kesey, where they did it at Stanford University. They were paid to take. He claims that they were paid to take LSD, mescaline, and some other drugs. So this is what Hunter wrote about his experiences. He says, "Sit back, picture yourself swooping up a shell of purple with foam crest of crystal drops. Soft nigh they fall unto the sea of morning. Creepy, very softly mist." Um,
Wasn't Stanford also doing the prison experiment around the same time too?
I think so.
Man, Stanford was just doing a lot of weird stuff in the 70s.
I know. So those are some of the like. Now, I obviously there was more. There's like a guy named Harold Blower. He was a tennis player who was a confirmed person. Another one was Allen Ginsberg, who was also at Stanford University. He said the experiences resulted in a slight paranoia that hung on all my acid experiences through the mid 1960s until I learned from mediation how to disperse that. He actually became an outspoken advocate for psychedelics in the 1960s, and after hearing suspicions that the experiment was CIA funded, he wrote, "Am I, Allen Ginsberg, the product of one of the CIA's lamentable, ill-advised, or triumphantly successful experiments in mind control?" So those are some of the known people. Now there's a group of people. So like I said, so the problem with MK Ultra and the problem with figuring all this out is most of it is confirmed. Most of it is alleged because, like I told you, the CIA destroyed half the documents to cover this stuff up. Now, when we get into some of the alleged people, you kind of hear some more famous names, and it kind of makes probably sense for why they did some of the things they did. James Bulger, who's a crime boss, he might have possibly been subject to weekly injections of LSD and subsequent testing while in, guess what, prison? Well, not what prison, but where the prison was at.
Alcatraz? I don't know.
Atlanta.
Oh, Atlanta. No way. Okay.
In 1957.
Not too far from me.
I know, right? So now this is a name I know. A lot of our listeners who are into conspiracy theories about the U.S. government stuff might know this guy's name. You might know him too. Ted Kaczynski.
Oh, okay.
The Unabomber.
Yeah.
He was said to possibly be a subject of voluntary psychological study, alleged by some sources to have been a part of MK Ultra. So the thing about Ted Kaczynski was he was actually really smart. He actually was going to Harvard, and he claims while a sophomore at Harvard, he might have participated in a study described by Allison Chase as Allison Chase described it as a purposely brutalizing psychological experiment led by Harvard psychologist Henry Murray. Apparently, Kaczynski spent 200 hours as part of the study, allegedly. So that's why, like, a lot of people think that that's why he might have done the things he did was because the LSD really screwed him up.
I was gonna say, you pump that many drugs into your brain. I mean, all kinds of weird stuff is gonna come out of you for sure.
Another like we got two more famous people, and then I'm gonna kind of give you a little bit of theories of what I believe. But the next guy is another famous person because these alleged ones are very famous, and it's kind of us looking at them and being like, could they have done it? It's Sirhan's attorney, not Sirhan's attorney, but Sirhan's attorney believes that Sirhan was operating under MK Ultra mind control techniques when he killed guess who?
Is he the one that killed the guy that killed JFK?
He killed Robert Kennedy.
No, that's who it is. Okay, I was like, I know it's involved.
So the guy who killed Robert Kennedy, he believed he was under CIA mind control.
Oh, he did. Oh, that's crazy.
That's what his attorney claims.
And hey, you know,
Lawrence Peter, his attorney, claims that Sirhan was under MK Ultra mind control
our
when he
current
killed.
Secretary of Health lost his father because of that, man.
Which that's a conspiracy theory we're going to get into one day about the deaths of JFK and RFK, because it makes a lot of sense that the CIA might have killed both of them.
Hey, man, imagine if we got big enough to where RFK Jr. is like, yeah, I want to be a guest on Beyond.
I would love that. You know,
and like you, me, him, and him are just talking about his uncle and his dad and how they got killed by the CIA. Like that would be crazy. That'd be a cool episode. So
yeah.
Hey, help us out, guys.
Yeah, help us out.
Share the podcast.
The last one. This one was he's been tied. This guy's been tied to MK Ultra because of an author by the name of Tim O'Neill. But this person is also very famous. Do you want to take a guess at the name? They had a cult back in the 60s and 70s.
A cult. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not Jones.
No.
A cult in the 70s. I don't really know much about cults back in that era.
Okay, so to kind of help you kind of guess, they were famous for murdering someone.
Was Manson in the 60s or was it somebody else?
You're right. It's Charles Manson.
It is Charles Manson. Okay.
Charles Manson was believed to have ties to MK Ultra. Apparently, while he was in prison, they believe that Manson took part in drug-induced psychological experiments run by the federal government. Such experiments hypothetically could have been continued through his ongoing connection to the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic in San Francisco once out of prison in 1967. So again, kind of like with Ted Kaczynski, we believe that Charles Manson acted all lunatic-like because of experiments done on him in prison. And as well, once he got out of prison at the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic in San Francisco, that kind of led him to possibly do those murders and create the cult. So that's basically MK Ultra. Again, I'm sorry that this has been a lot of information dump. It is like I said, there was I literally was looking at one document and it was 150 pages of information. There's so much information on MK Ultra, it's ridiculous. And what makes it so scary is how truthful it is. You know, to think that the government could be doing mind control. So to kind of sum it up, if you kind of were zoned out or something, MK Ultra, the CIA was using LSD to mind control people, got shut down in 73, was investigated in 75. We don't have a lot of the documents because the CIA destroyed them, and there's a lot of people involved. So that's where we come to the conspiracy, because this is kind of a conspiracy, because not really though, because again, it's all fact-based. We all have all this evidence that we're not conspiring that the government was doing this, because we know the government was doing this. But the conspiracy comes into play when is the government still doing this today? Some examples that I have thought about and have looked at, because like I said, I've known about MK Ultra for a while now. This is not a political podcast. Okay. We're not going to talk about go into the politics of this, but one belief is that this Trump shooter, the guy who shot Trump in the year, he was an MK Ultra agent.
Isn't he? Oh, but that's assuming that it's still going on today.
Yes, if we're assuming that this has still been going on, there's belief that there are certain people. For example, the guy who shot Trump was an MK Ultra agent.
Because I was going to say that like 20s. I was like, what? But then,
yeah.
Okay.
So the reason why people believe that MK Ultra could still be going on, and he could have been a victim of it, is because the FBI knew about him about a year prior, and so there's a chance that if they knew about him a year prior, they could have picked him up, drugged him, and spent that year programming him to do these things. Another recent case, and again, what I'm fixing to say, if you want to skip past it, you can. This is kind of still sensitive because this is a fresh wound still. You remember the Catholic school that just got shot up recently?
Yeah, just earlier.
I saw information that his dad was possibly part of the CIA for about 29 years.
Oh,
so it makes you question, could he have been brainwashed?
Sure.
Ultra. And a lot of, and like, not to, like, again, we're not trying to be political here with this. We're just looking at what the government has been known to do and saying the government could still be doing this today, and this could explain a lot of things. For example, a lot of the school shootings, I have a belief that some of them possibly could have been MK Ultra. And I just think a lot of the things that we see today with a lot of the violence, a lot of the problems going on, I think a lot of it makes me question, could the CIA still be brainwashing people? So yeah, that's MK Ultra, guys. Steven, you got anything?
I mean, based off the reports of what happened in the past, I mean, yeah, absolutely, that's confirmed. Stuff today. Mm, I mean, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Well, for sure, the government is hiding stuff from us.
Oh
That's
yeah.
just true of all time. The recent shooters that you talked about, could they be connected to it? I mean,
Who knows? And
I don't.
there's other cases. Like I'm really blanking on some of the other cases I could think about, but you get
Sure.
what I'm saying. Like the government, and you guys will learn this on the podcast. Especially if you go back and you watch our Waco episode, my very choice words about the government in that episode. But the government, like, we still have the 9/11 documents are still sealed. Why are the 9/11 documents still sealed? The government's hiding stuff from us, and it's, we don't want to get political on this, but I think Trump does warn us about the deep state. I mean, there's the CIA, the FBI, the ATF. These like the CIA really, to me, they try to run everything. If you think the president's running the United States, you're crazy. It's probably the CIA. And I do think that they're still using MK Ultra and some sort of brainwashing. I don't think this, like, if the CIA was actually successful with it, like we talk about the guy Frank Olson, where he actually killed himself or unalived himself. Sorry, YouTube. But where he did that, and it's a question of, okay, so he was fixing to expose the CIA possibly, and then all of a sudden they confirm, yeah, we gave him the LSD drugs, and then he jumps out a 13-story window. And then, like, if the government was truly on the verge of this, you know what I mean? Like, I do think, I don't think they stopped. If you were so close to succeeding, or if you did succeed, why would you stop? Especially with like an agency like the CIA, where they want to have their hand in every little thing. Why not have some soldiers that are programmed to follow your orders? You know?
Makes sense to me. I mean, if they feel like they have a good thing going, and they basically got caught in 1973, but they were able to find a way to keep it going, but covertly, then yeah, why not keep going? You know. So
Yeah. So that's all I've got. You got anything else, Steven?
no, yeah. I mean, I think that will do it. It's one of those things where you know you always hope and trust that your government's doing good things, but as complex as the bureaucracy of the U.S. is now, maybe you have a good president every once in a while, but the fact is, some things are going to go unnoticed even by him, and it's just kind of disturbing. You have to think about, So
Well, I think, like, when you talk about trusting your government, I think we probably could have trusted the government, maybe back before the 50s and 40s. Probably before the 40s, we could have probably trusted our government. Maybe, well, actually, probably not even then. I really think the 20s, kind of when some things started picking up in the 30s, and I think that's when you really, like, when the FBI was formed, when CIA was formed, when these government agencies like these were formed. That's when I thought you can't trust the government no more. So yeah, that's all I've got. If you guys enjoy this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, that's all I got. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, guys. Don't drink.